Yeah, well, connecting dots. I mean, yeah, there are once you start connecting dots, it becomes a theory to a degree. But the thing is, and what you've done very well is establish a body of factual evidence. And sure, when you to take that and then to create a sort of superstructure, a conspiracy that tie things together, then it is a theory. It's still theoretical, but you still have the facts. And so that's one of the things we talked about. Are there, a broad underlying conspiracy? Is there a global elite, Illuminati, New World Order, that kind of thing? That's something we could talk about. But wherever you come down on that, what really is most important is that there's enough evidence for any reasonable person, in my view, to take these things seriously. And that's what really matters. I mean, that's actually my particular thing is that conspiracy theories are just laughed off. They're not taken seriously, and yet it's unreasonable because there is evidence of severe wrongdoing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I prefer to use the term global elite than Illuminati or New World Order, which I think is missing a lot of nuances because it implies something like in those bad B-grade movies you'd have a world organization a secret world organization that's controlling everything, and they'd have a headquarters in somewhere like Geneva, Switzerland, and they'd have one button that would control. It's that sort of thinking. Whereas I prefer the global elite because that could imply, somewhere that could even include rising families and corporations and entities within new countries that are rising up like China and India, which don't even, that's Illuminati ideas are more Europe, which is it's a new world now. We're beyond that, and the global elite could also include conflicting groups that are actually working against each other. So they're all trying to dominate. They're all sort of striving for world domination, but the reason I think it is true of an overarching group. An overarching splinter group of the world, which is whether you call it the 1% of the global elite or whatever, I believe this is true because in terms of the rest of us, the common man, none of these groups, even if they're fighting with each other, none of them are looking out for us. In fact, most of them, I believe, are against us. They're not looking to redistribute the wealth. They're not looking to end homelessness. They're not looking to end extreme poverty. They're looking out for themselves. So from that perspective, from the common people's perspective, there is a global elite that we've got to bring to the fore and seek out and name.
Right. Yeah, and I think what you're alluding to is, I think why you favor the term global elite, and I agree. It refers to a natural occurrence. It's the way the world works, that people tend to work with each other where for mutual benefit. And so when you're talking about the super rich and the super powerful, and those in position of great power, that there naturally becomes coalitions, and that's not necessarily the typical notion of a conspiracy, but it in all practical intents and purposes becomes it, because it's just a way of things. And in fact, in the corporate world, I mean, interlocking directorates, what is that? I mean, you're just having companies are being bound together, and because of mutual interest, and it can become just and that's legal. But the idea is that people are going to bond together for self-interest. Now there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's psychology. That's nature. The thing is, when does it become criminal and subterfuge? And so,
well, I'll give you an example. In the United States, there's the Logan Act, and that says that no elected U.S. official can meet in secret and discuss policy. So the operative phrase in that is discuss policy, okay? Now, if you take the Bilderberg Group, which is one of many of these, there's the Bohemian Club, there's the Council on Foreign Relations. These are all elitist groups. What happens with the Bilderberg Group is they meet in secret. It's not open to journalists. It's royalty, bankers, the media, people like Rupert Murdoch from the media, and elected politicians. Clintons were there, people like that, Tony Blair. But when these people meet in secret, what are they going to be officially? The way the U.S. because the U.S. is the only country that has this rule that you can't discuss policy in secret away from Congress and so on. So they're the ones that what the U.S. officials say is, no, we're not discussing policy. But what are these people going to discuss at an event like this? What are these powerful, the world's movers and shakers going to be? Are they going to be discussing what time we play golf, what to eat for dinner? No, when you get people like this together, they're going to be discussing policies, and they're going to find mutual causes.
That's actually fascinating. I mean, I'm actually not. I heard of that law before. That's an American law where you cannot discuss. Say that again. Now you can't discuss.
You can't discuss policy. I think it's actually you can't discuss policy with foreign officials in secret, something like that. But it's definitely that you can't do it. You can't be. You can meet with them, but you can't be discussing policy.
I see. Well, that's fascinating because, one level I hear that I say, well, someone who believes in free speech, why can't you do anything, talk to anybody on some level? But the point being that if that law exists, that's almost a confession by the Congress of the United States who passed it, that this is fertile ground for conspiracies. And you're saying that the U.S. is the only country that has this law?
Yeah, right? the U.S. because of the Constitution and that has the best laws for these things. But it's when people say to me the U.S. is the most corrupt, I don't agree because it's got the best founding principles. But the problem is there's so much money. A lot of the big corporations are there that in the end you do get the most corruption. And so it's sort of by mistake. But they've got these sort of rules, like here in Australia, or British officials goes, there's nothing, they can do whatever they want. They can sign agreements with foreign politicians in private if they want. So it's a good rule, but unfortunately there's no real way to enforce it because we don't know what they discuss.
Right, but what I'm saying, right. But what I'm saying is that the mere fact that law exists actually is a statement. If you think about it, it's a statement. The law itself states that this is dangerous, you might say, conspiratorial territory. So we have a law, this country has a law, the United States has a law, but all the other countries don't. And so, therefore, if you look at it, it's basically the law is stating exactly the kind of conspiratorial development, organizational, development that can spring from that. And so, therefore, if all the countries in the world, and the United States is, well, they're not the only country who has the conspiracies, obviously, and so it basically acknowledges exactly what you're saying, that this is going on, and you have people of power talking, negotiating policy, and there are Americans doing it. They have to do it undercover, but the citizens of other countries don't have to worry about that, and so therefore, because they don't have to worry about that, and because enough Americans are probably doing it anyway, you have actually a definition of conspiracy, of worldwide global conspiracy embodied in the law itself in terms of a description of what it is. Yeah, I mean,
I've just this is going by memory, but I'm pretty sure that law came in 1976. Mm-hmm. So these Bilderberg Group was 54, Council on Foreign Relations about the same time. Mm-hmm. But I don't believe that I don't believe this idea that the Bilderberg Group is the world government. Once again, that lacks nuance. It doesn't include. I just think that would be one element of it. But there is a global lead, and I believe when you mentioned before about wealthy people, I don't believe the Forbes rich lists are the richest people.
Right.
I think there's a hidden system of finance in the world.